What's going on, everyone? So many of you, if not all of you watching this video, are very aware that I am a big Zach Lavine guy. And from what we've seen with Austin Reeves, it's part of the reason, right? One, I think Zach Lavine just would be huge for this team. The athleticism, people talk about his defense, right? He is either every year, either around league average or better every year. So he would literally be our third best defensive player on this team right now. And our third best overall player and scorer. And could you imagine what he would be able to do in the Austin Reeves role right now? And again, from what you're seeing with Austin Reeves, he's not a third guy. He's not consistent enough for you to be your third guy every night, right? As your fourth guy now, okay, maybe now you're talking, right? Now I think Austin Reeves, because on the games where he's really good, you're winning all of them. The games where he's like, okay, probably winning most of them. And the games where he's really bad, you still have a chance to win because you got Zach Lavine, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Add like a Jared Vanderbilt or whatever, and you get to keep your picks. You can go get a Walker Kessler or something. You still make other moves. I mean, you could get Kessler and like a Dorian Finney-Smith technically, right? Like you still have other options and flexibility to really carve out this roster. So big on Zach Lavine, right? And I've gone over, his contract, right? Again, you're swapping D'Lo, who basically has been unplayable, Gabe Vincent, who has statistically been the worst player in the NBA, and Rui Hachimura, who he's been great, but he's slotted out of position. Zach Lavine by himself is literally giving you the same production as all three of those guys combined. Again, think I'm wrong? Go look it up. He's right there, right? Like, it's not far off. He's giving you the same production. And you'd still, again, have flexibility to do other things. And if we win a championship, is anyone going to be like, oh man, but we got Zach Lavine on a $40 million? No, we're all going to be like, good thing we got Zach Lavine, right? Like, injury history, I know, is a concern. But outside of last year, he played 25 games. He was expected to finish the season. And then the Detroit rumor started. And then he was like, I'm not going to Detroit. And then all of a sudden he needed surgery. And even Chicago was like, what? Like, you need surgery? Like, no one knew he needed surgery, right? So clearly he didn't want to do Chicago. You look at the last 5 years, played 77 games, 67 games, I think it's 58 games, 60 and like 62, something like that. So the guy's playing 65 games on average, which guess what? That's the average for stars. So as long as he's giving you 60, 65 games a season, you're in good shape. And again, if you win a championship, no one's going to worry about it, right? Like, I don't think that this team is a championship contender now. However, right, as big as I am on Zach Lavine, I've talked about, and I kind of want to go in depth in this video, is that Zach Lavine as a singular trade, I think is the best trade, right? Like, if you're to trade for a Cam Johnson or Jeremy Grant, right, or any of these guys that are available, I think Zach Lavine singular, like as an individual trade, is the best trade you can make. But now that the Brooklyn Nets are ready to have a fire sale, right, and everything must go, now I think, and I've maintained, if you can get multiple moves, I've always preferred that. Now, if you can get like Zach Lavine, Walker Kessler, and like a Dorian Finney-Smith, then again, I prefer that more. But in a one-to-one comparison, give me Zach Lavine over the field, right? But if, say, the Nets, and you could pull off something like a Dennis Schroeder with a Cam Johnson and like a Day'Ron Sharpe, okay, I'd rather have that because now you're filling all your holes, right? Now you got a point of attack guard, you got a 3-and-D wing, and you got a backup center that is still young and can be a part of the future, right? So now I think you have just better all-around team. You got more depth. Your front end and even back end is just better. Right, because now you could go Dennis Schroeder, Austin Reeves. Personally, I would go Dalton Connect, personally. So let's do what I would want to do, or what I would hope for. Speak it into existence, right? I would do Dennis Schroeder, Dalton Connect, Cam Johnson, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. I think that is much better, especially if Dennis Schroeder can do what he's doing right now on the Brooklyn Nets, right? The three-point shooting, his playmaking, obviously his defense, point of attack guy, all of that. Now you just have better balance. You have shooting. Basically every guy on the court now is 38% or better from three-point range. Every guy on the court is athletic at that point, right? And now you could do something like Austin Reeves, if you can get a Dorian Finney-Smith in the deal also, that'd be great because you could do like him, Dorian Finney-Smith, you have Day'Ron Sharp, and you have a Christian Wood with like a Cam Reddish, right? Like now I just think you're much better balanced, or you can have Max Christie, whatever, however you want to approach it. So you could go like Reeves, Christie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Christian Wood, and Day'Ron Sharp. Boom, there you go. I would rather that than Zach Lavine. So to me, it's like, if you can get that, if you can basically solve all of your needs in one trade, then yes, give me that. Or even like multiple trades, right? Like if you could get, a Cam Johnson and, Dennis Schroeder from Brooklyn, and then you go get like a Walker Kessler, and then you go get, whatever, Bruce Brown or something like that, right? Like now, okay, fine. Like again, like to me, Zach Lavine as a solo trade, especially if you can get like an Io in the deal, which supposedly Chicago would be willing to include an Io. What do they want in exchange for that, right? Because if they're like, oh, like we want a first, like no, I'd rather you just give me Zach Lavine. You can keep Io and then take those first and then go get a Walker Kessler and like a Dorian Finney-Smith, something like that, right? Like, I'd rather do that. Where now you got a 3-and-D wing, you got Zach Lavine, and you got your center. I would prefer something along those lines. If you can get Zach Lavine plus, 2 other pieces, then yes, I would rather do that, right? I don't even hate the idea of like getting, a Dennis Schroeder and then, problem is like, I wish, like, if you get, like, a Dorian Finney-Smith and a Dennis Schroeder with the Zach Lavine, but then the problem is, like, your backup center position, right? So it's just like, like, you need a center, right? So to me, it's like, okay, if you can get Zach Lavine and then, like, a Day'Ron Sharp or a Nick Richards, perfect. Do that. And then if you can get an Io in the deal, perfect. Do that, right? Like, I don't think the Lakers are incredibly far from a contender, but I do think that, and I've always maintained, you need this and, right? If you go back to the offseason, I talked about Jeremy Grant and Cam Johnson and, right? Like the Lakers need at least 2 quality starting level players if they really want to be a real contender. I think they have a puncher's chance right now, right? Like I don't think that there's any team that I look at and go, Lakers have no shot at beating, right? But I wouldn't bet on it, right? Like I don't necessarily trust this team to be consistent enough. LeBron James and Anthony Davis are going to do LeBron James and Anthony Davis stuff, but everyone else, right? I don't trust this team to show up and deliver to the way that we need them to on a regular basis. And I do think that there are enough teams that can beat us. I think, and I've said this before, I think we're in like the 7 to 8 range as far as like top teams. I think there's at least a handful of teams that are better than us. If you want to argue, we're 6th, sure. I won't really push too much on that, but I don't believe we're a top 5 contender. I don't. Right? I mean, just off the top of my head, Boston, obviously, OKC, although I like the matchup, I think that they're a better overall team, right? Denver, right? Denver beats us every year, so until that changes, you got to stick with Denver. I think the Knicks, if they figure some stuff out and, Mikal Bridges can kind of get back to being Mikal Bridges a little bit, I like their roster overall, but I think that they have the ability to beat us. I would take them over us. I mean, the Cavs have looked better than us, right? I mean, at bare minimum. I mean, and then that's not counting making an argument for other teams. I do think we're better than Minnesota. I do think we're better than Dallas, but I do think you can make an argument, right? Like, so again, you kind of go down the list and it's like, which teams are you comfortable going, Lakers would beat these teams in a 7-game series, right? Again, I think that they can, but I'm not comfortable saying that they like beat anybody, right? So I think you need several guys. Now, again, if Austin Reeves now is your 4th guy, right? I just think now you're just in a better position, right? So if Austin Reeves as your 3rd guy, just not what you need. But if now you can get a guy, a Cam Johnson, and get a Spencer, and you just kind of have just better committee to where Cam Johnson can go and get you, 20 on any given night, 25 on any given night. And then, Dennis Schroeder, if he can continue to play the way he's playing, but also gives you that defense, right? You just get more 2-way guys. I think it just opens up so much more for the Lakers. Lakers are just much more balanced now. Otherwise, I think, you go get Zach Lavine. I think, break glass case of emergency. You got Zach Lavine, which if you're the Lakers, you want to be patient. Zach Lavine isn't going anywhere. You're not worried about, Chicago trading Lavine, right? Like, I don't see a team ponying up to go and take him because, again, how many teams need a guy like Zach Lavine? Most teams already have their guy. Like, all the top teams. Zach Lavine's not going to want to go to a bad team, right? So, like, again, how many teams, like, need Zach Lavine? So I don't think Zach Lavine's going anywhere, right? So if you're the Lakers, you be patient, right? Can you get, 3 or 4 guys from the Brooklyn Nets to kind of fill the holes that you have? Brooklyn has everything the Lakers need. Literally. Brooklyn should be the number one. Lakers should be on the phone nonstop with Brooklyn. Just like, hey, we need Day'Ron Sharpe. We need, obviously, I would love Nick Claxton. They're going to want at least 2 firsts for Nick Claxton. And that's it, right? Nick Claxton by himself doesn't make us a contender, right? So I'd rather go get Day'Ron Sharpe, who he's not worth a first, a couple seconds if that. So let's say 3 seconds is worth a first, right? So you're looking at, like, between him, Dennis Schroeder and Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, they've been trying to get a first for Dorian Finney-Smith for, like, years now, and no one's bought, right? All 3 of those guys are worth 2 seconds at most, right? And then Cam Johnson is worth a first, but he's not worth multiple firsts. So I'm saying, like, if you could get all 4 of those guys, if you get Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, Day'Ron Sharpe, here's both seconds. If you want a pick swap, fine, here's a pick swap, right? At that point, give whatever you need. Because at that point, I think you have everything you need. You always have a two-way guy on the court in Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson. Now, you always have some type of point of attack. Right? I just think you're just much better balanced. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Kind of mixed in the middle? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.